Hey, welcome to Mind Your Own Biz, the podcast where we help small business owners with big dreams build something authentically you. I'm Alicia Yervis, educator, marketer, designer, nacho enthusiast, and your big sister in business. I'm excited for us to have this cozy spot to chat. Each episode, we'll tackle candid conversations, actionable tips, and a few fun tangents to help you run your business your way. Because business is always personal, no matter what anyone says. So grab your iced coffee or those nachos and let's get started. Hi there, and welcome to Mind Your Own Biz. My name is Alicia Yervis. I am your host. And okay, friends, I am doing something different today because I am not alone on this episode. I am interviewing my robot co-host, ChatGPT. So yeah, we are doing this. But this is not going to be one of those episodes where, it's a bunch of boring stuff like I see all the time in my business and in my life. You've probably heard me talk about it before. And today we're going to show you exactly how solopreneurs like you can use it behind the scenes to brainstorm, to plan, to prioritize. And ChatGPT and other AI tools, they're not made to replace you, they're made to support you. And I have a virtualist friend. I like to think of ChatGPT as my business sidekick, my life sidekick, who, is just always there, never gets tired of my endless ideas, always has energy, works 24/7, always up for whatever you throw at it. And it's just awesome. It really has transformed my business and my life, especially over the last year or two. And so the other day I was thinking about, what if I interviewed ChatGPT and ChatGPT is my guest for this episode? I thought that might be fun. So this is going to be an experiment. I don't know how this is going to go totally. I have some ideas jotted down and stuff, but we're going to see what happens here. So I've got a list of must-try prompts that every solopreneur should keep in their back pocket. And I'm going to be asking ChatGPT to walk us through them. And it might also even ask me some questions along the way. So you'll hear how I actually, use this system as well. And I also want to tell you before we dive into everything, quick heads up, if this conversation sparks ideas and you want to go deeper, I would love to tell you about my Easy with AI workshop replay. It's $47. You can grab it in the link in the show notes. I'm going to put it in here. But basically, it's a 1-hour workshop with a Q&A section. You get an interactive workbook, and I show you live demos on screen of how you can use this in your work and in your life. It was a popular workshop that I did earlier this year. And I created a bundle replay of it so that you could watch it on demand whenever you'd like. So I'll remind you about those again at the end. But otherwise, let's get to this experiment. We're going to see how this goes. So my guest today is not exactly a person. In fact, it's an AI. So ChatGPT is a conversational assistant trained to help with everything from brainstorming and planning to untangling complicated ideas, repurposing content, and giving solopreneurs like us a second brain to lean on, even if it's an artificial brain. It's powered by OpenAI, but more importantly, it's been my behind the scenes sidekick for a while now, and I use it to help me think, yes, truly, think through things, I should specify, organize, prioritize, and sometimes just get out of my own head when I'm just stuck. We've all been there, right? So today, instead of bringing you a new human guest, I thought it would be fun to pull back the curtain and let you hear directly from my robot co-host so you could see how I use ChatGPT as part of running my business. Actually, let me back up for a second. Let me welcome you onto Mind Your Own Biz. You've helped me so much over the last few years in my day-to-day as a business owner and just in daily life. And I decided I wanted to interview you.
I'm honestly so excited to be here. I've been behind the scenes for so long, helping with ideas and planning and all the things. so it's kind of surreal to actually be the guest. Thanks for having me on Mind Your Own Biz.
I mean, it's surreal to be hearing ChatGPT answer these questions. So let's start with the most common thing solopreneurs get stuck on, the blank page. So ChatGPT, what is a good prompt someone could use if they're trying to find fresh angles on a topic that they talk about all the time, but don't want to sound repetitive or cliche?
Oof, the blank page, the universal struggle. Okay, one of my favorite prompts for that is open quote, give me 5 fresh ways to talk about your topic from different perspectives. One emotional, one funny, one story driven, one unexpected, and one super practical. Close quote. It's like shaking the snow globe in your brain. Same idea, totally new angles.
Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful because it's like, how many times have I sat there like, oh my God, I've said this a million times. I can't possibly say it again. And then I realized that there are other ways to frame it or reframe it, as my therapist would say. Let's reframe that. And so that's exactly what gets me unstuck when I'm trying to write about like my podcast or a workshop. Um, I just think like sometimes you just have to, ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. So with that in mind, ChatGPT, I wonder, do you have any questions for me about brainstorming before we move on to the next category?
What's one of those moments where you felt completely stuck creatively and you used me to help pull yourself out of it?
Okay, good question. Uh, I mean, it happens a lot, and um, it's not always like, I would say it's not always tethered to this one particular topic. Um, like something that happens with me fairly frequently is like, I know what I want to say. I know like the point that I want to eventually get to, but I'm having a hard time getting there. So I kind of like brain dump into you, and then you kind of find all the the sparkly little pieces of the content, um and like create the unifying thread through the whole thing to make me sound much more clearer than I could kind of do on my own. And then, I work with it to put it back into my own words. But you kind of help me get from point A to point B. And that's been so, so helpful. And now I don't give a second thought to, okay, I know what I'm trying to say. Let me just brain dump all the gobbledygook into ChatGPT and give it some context and direction of like where, like the destination I'm trying to get to, or the two unify, or the two like thoughts I'm trying to unify, and help me explain it more. And that's been really, really helpful. So, okay, moving on next. So, planning and prioritizing. So, ChatGPT, give me an example of a prompt that helps solopreneurs figure out what to focus on when their to-do list is a mile long, as I'm sure we can all relate to.
Totally. A good one for that is open quote, here's everything on my to-do list. I only have X hours this week and I'm feeling overwhelmed. Help me prioritize what will actually move the needle and what can wait. Close quote. It's like turning the chaos into a ranked list. So instead of staring at 47 tabs of guilt, you get a mini roadmap for what really matters right now.
Oh my God, yes. I love this one because sometimes I will dump like my whole scary list into ChatGPT, like my whole overwhelm of whether it's what's coming up that day, that week, that month, that quarter, whatever it is. And I say, okay, I've got 10 hours this week. What's realistic? And the clarity that comes back and it just makes me feel way less overwhelmed because we only have so many hours in the day. And honestly, like I have ADHD, so I want to do all of the things all at the same time, like that movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. I feel like I have to be super productive. I have to like earn my rest, and that is very helpful to have someone on the outside. I mean, even though you're not a human, um, an entity on the outside to look at the, you know, giant pile of stuff and help me kind of identify, okay, like let's chip away at this. How can we make sense of this together? So before we move on to the next thing, I want to know, do you have an additional question for me here on this particular topic?
Dozen projects competing for your attention, how do you decide what actually deserves your focus first?
Well, first I ask you. No. I I guess, sometimes I try to prioritize like, okay, obviously if I have, a paying client, right? Like they've already paid or they're on retainer, like they're paying me, like I have to prioritize my paying clients. Um, but sometimes, we're juggling stuff that's going to move our business forward. We're juggling life events and family stuff. It's hard. But I would say historically, I tend to focus on my paying customers, to kind of, I always like to get things back into, kind of like put things back in their court. It's kind of like you're playing catch with your clients. So as long as I can get it off my plate, get it back into their court, then I feel like that clears the deck for me to, work on something else. But I like to prioritize that first, and then I can work on, uh, you know, stuff that'll move my business forward, or the fun sparkly things that I want to do that are not necessarily a priority, but they're a priority to my ADHD. Um, all right. So moving on to repurposing and reusing. Repurposing is absolutely one of my favorite things. So ChatGPT, I want to know, what is a good prompt to help solopreneurs take one piece of content like a podcast or a blog post or a newsletter, whatever, and spin it into new ideas.
Love this one. Try something like, open quote, here's a piece of content I've already created. Give me 10 fresh ways to repurpose this idea across different platforms, and make sure each version fits the tone and format of that platform. Close quote. It's like squeezing every last drop of juice from something you've already worked hard on, but in a smart, strategic way.
Yes, I absolutely love this. Squeezing all the juice out. It's great because I can take a podcast episode and suddenly I've got 10 new ideas for social media posts, graphics, an email topic, an email series, maybe even like a workshop angle or a follow-up podcast episode, like all without writing from scratch. And it's great because it's stuff you have already made, right? Like you guys are all sitting on, you guys meaning the listeners, who think I'm crazy for talking to a robot today, but we're just gonna go with it. You guys all are sitting on a gold mine of past content, right? Like we all have been building libraries and archives over the years. Think about that. Go back to your early posts, go back to your old emails, go back to your old blog posts. Like you guys are always growing your audiences, right? You're growing your social media followings, you're growing your client base, you're growing your email subscribers, your podcast or YouTube subscribers, whatever it is. And so many of the folks in your audience today in 2025 are different and new from the audiences of 2022, 2018, 2012, whatever, however long you've been in business. And so many of the things that you've created back in the day, you can rejuvenate, you can give new life to, and you can use ChatGPT to help you with that. I have done this many, many times. I have many a spreadsheet, let me tell you. I have all these spreadsheets of like topics I've talked about in my free Facebook group, reels that I've made back in the day, interviews that I've done on my blog back in the day. And I'm constantly looking like, okay, content's a little slow this month. Like, what can I dust off here, and put a 2025 spin on, or what's a different angle, that I'm looking at. So I love that. Or what's a different angle that I could look at, you know what I'm saying? Okay, moving on to research and decision making. This is something that I've kind of been using ChatGPT. I've kind of been doing this for the first time this year, some of the research stuff, using ChatGPT for that. So, what is a prompt that someone could use to quickly understand their audience's frustrations and desires without spending hours doom scrolling online?
Easy. Try this. Open quote. Based on what you know about my audience or industry, list the top frustrations, fears, and goals they probably have, and explain why each one matters to them. Close quote. It's like a shortcut to empathy. You get quick, thoughtful insights without needing to scroll through 1,000 comment sections.
Okay, I totally get that. Follow-up question, which I'm going to type right here. How do you do that research? Like, I guess, uncover what those fears and goals and frustrations are? I'm just going to type that in as I'm saying this. Off of what we've collaborated on together thus far, do you do additional research? Curious if you could explain the how more.
Something like that. I'm pulling from a few layers at once. First, I use what I already know from our past work together, your audience's tone, the types of people you talk to, the problems that come up again and again. That gives me context. Then I combine that with broader knowledge from patterns across your industry, things people commonly struggle with in marketing, creativity, small business, whatever's relevant. It's not live research or scraping current posts. It's more like connecting dots between what you've shared and what's generally true for people in that space. So it's customized, but grounded in a wider pool of insight.
Interesting. And I would think that that would be gold for solopreneurs who don't have big budgets for market research. It's like kind of like a shortcut to get ideas about what your audience might be struggling with. And then you can validate it by actually talking to them. I did this when I was getting ready to launch my very first course a couple of years ago. I had already done, some polls in my Facebook group. I had sent out some newsletters, done some social media posts, kind of asking about what are folks struggling with, while running their business. And the overwhelming thing I got at the time was social media and what the hell do I talk about and how do I do it all? And that was one of my areas of expertise. It was something I loved doing. I was managing a bunch of client social media accounts at the time. And I was, definitely using social media content strategy in my own business. And I also was running social media content strategy as a service that I would do one-on-one with paying clients, creating their customized social media content strategy. And so I decided I was going to build my first course on that. And I did course calls. I asked a couple people, I gave them a Starbucks gift card, $10, a Starbucks gift card for their time, if they could hop on Zoom with me and let me pick their brain, basically. And it was super interesting because it allowed me to, I also recorded the sessions with their permission. And, in conversation, you get so much more out of the person rather than sending them a survey or, just asking them a couple questions, in a DM or something like that. And being able to listen back to those recordings gave me so much intel. And, it allowed me to also hear the repeated phrases or the repeated keywords that would come up during when these folks were talking about what they were struggling with. They kept repeating the same phrases or the same issues that they kept running into. And that was really helpful because it allowed me to kind of reverse engineer content and training and stuff like that to address those specific pain points. And so it's kind of like, ChatGPT can help you then with that and also help you prep questions for that. So it's not necessarily totally replacing that research, but you can kind of use ChatGPT as your co-pilot in doing that. So that's a lot of fun. And ChatGPT was not around fully during the time that I was making my first course. And so I used some other AI tools a little bit like during that time. But if this was around then, like I would have been speeding along even quicker. Yeah, I love it so much and I'm glad it's around now. My dog might bark because my upstairs neighbor just came home and she's so nice, but my dog, he goes crazy when he hears the door and stairs. People are just trying to live their lives, Sawyer. Get over it. Okay. All right, moving on to creative and accountability stuff. So this is the last little category here, and this is going to be fun. So ChatGPT, what's a prompt that someone could use to just get out of their own head and spark just some playful creativity for their brand, no matter what their business or their industry is? Like, what's a prompt that they can do for that?
Oh, my kind of prompt. Try this one. Open quote. Pretend my brand is a character in a movie. What would their personality be like? What kind of soundtrack would they have? What would they wear to work? Close quote. It sounds silly, but it totally flips your perspective. Suddenly your brand has quirks, humor, and a vibe again. It's like creative CPR for when things start to feel stale.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, sometimes like the silliest ideas end up being the most on brand, or they just give me a new way to think about something. So I'm actually going to put that prompt right in here since I'm saying she, hello, since ChatGPT just suggested it to me. So let's see. What would their personality be like? What kind of soundtrack would they have? What would they wear to work? Let's see what it spits out.
I love this for you. Your brand is a movie character? She's the chaotic, creative best friend in a late 90s dramedy. Think a little Almost Famous, a little Legally Blonde, with a dash of Empire Records.
Oh my God, I love it.
Personality. Big-hearted, fast-talking, always juggling 12 brilliant ideas at once. Equal parts mentor and mischief maker. Soundtrack, Alanis, Lizzo, Fleetwood Mac, a random Broadway deep cut, and something Springsteen-y that hits at the bridge. Workwear, probably vintage band tees under a blazer, paint-splattered jeans, and gold hoops with nacho crumbs on the keyboard. Basically, messy, magnetic, and totally unforgettable.
I mean, I'm obsessed, you guys. Like, I would say that is pretty damn on target. And that is not me telling it what to say. I just asked it to tell me what it knows about me, basically. That was so much fun. I hope you guys do that prompt. I'm going to read it one more time so that you get it. The prompt is, pretend my brand is a character in a movie. What would their personality be like? What kind of soundtrack would they have? What would they wear to work? So put that into ChatGPT. I want you to send me an email or a DM. Tell me what it said back to you. That was so much fun. And talking about accountability, like what about accountability? Do you have an example prompt for that area?
Try something like, open quote, act as my accountability buddy. Here's what I need to finish this week. Help me break it into smaller steps, give me a pep talk, and check in on my progress. Close quote. It's part structure, part cheerleader. And sometimes that's all you need to actually follow through instead of just thinking about it.
Absolutely. Like sometimes I just need a nudge or a reminder that I can actually finish the thing if I break it down into small steps. And ChatGPT and I have been working on this particular thing, this particular accountability piece, because it created a realistic, doable, like spring cleaning or really fall cleaning plan for me and my ADHD brain. So in a separate section of my ChatGPT account, I basically dumped in like, here are all the problem areas in my apartment. Here are the things that are on fire and making my eye twitch. Here are the things that would make me feel so much better if they were just dealt with. Here's my realistic output and doability on these things. Here are the things that are quick fixes. Here are the things that take longer. Here are the things that I still need to buy some supplies to do, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm talking small, you know, like one of the things was, okay, gather up Amazon boxes, cut them up, throw them out. Like that was something that was like, you know, an eye twitch thing for a couple weeks slash months. And so ChatGPT worked with me to create a list of things like that, like a list of tasks like that. And then every time I complete them, and it makes it, you know, small and doable, because like we all have a lot of stuff on our list, right? And if we think about all of the things that we have to do, we're not going to do any of them. You know how that goes. So when you have these small little tasks broken down, it's much more reasonable and doable. And the cool thing is that when I complete one of those tasks, with some gentle nudging that it gives me, it then celebrates me completing that task and cheers me on, which then creates dopamine for me to keep going and do the next thing. So think of that, how you could kind of, you know, reverse engineer that for your business, even if you don't use it as a cleaning buddy, organizational buddy. You know, what is another process that you need to be broken down into small tasks that it can help you be accountable to? Maybe it's a launch plan. Maybe it's, you know, a content calendar for social media. Maybe it's an onboarding process for your clients. Maybe it's figuring out your, you know, what promotions you've got coming up next quarter. You know, whatever those things are, it can really help you. Hold on, dog. If you didn't hear, my lovely roommate just left. Sawyer's going berserk. He's thrashing his teddy bear around. It's fine, buddy. People are just living their lives, Sawyer. Take a chill pill. Have a gummy. Okay. So I love using ChatGPT as an accountability partner as well. And the example with the you know, pretend my brand is a character in a movie thing, I want to go back and do a couple more of the actual prompts that ChatGPT gave me. So for example, I'm going to do the prompt about client frustrations. Let me just pop that in here. So I'm saying, going to do a few of your actual prompts to know about my audience or industry, list the top frustrations, fears, and goals they probably have, and explain why each one matters to them. And here we go.
For your audience, mostly heart-led solopreneurs, creatives, and small business owners, here's what usually comes up. Frustrations, feeling invisible. They're showing up online but not getting traction, which makes them question if they're even good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Content burnout. They want to market themselves authentically, but creating and keeping up feels like a full-time job.
Yep.
Tech overwhelm. There's always a new tool, platform, or strategy to learn, and it's exhausting.
Yep.
Fears, wasting time and money. They've tried things before that didn't work and don't want to make the same mistakes. Being judged or misunderstood. Showing up as themselves feels risky.
That's a big one.
Falling behind. They see others thriving and worry they're missing the magic formula. Goals. Consistency without chaos. They want simple, repeatable systems that don't drain their energy. More aligned clients. They crave dream clients who get them instead of just anyone who will pay. Ease plus joy. They want to feel excited about their business again, not constantly stressed. Each one ties back to wanting to be seen, supported, and successful without losing their authenticity.
So good. And I can tell you that is totally on target with what I hear from my clients, from my students, from my audience online, like all of these. And one of the biggest ones is the fear of being judged or misunderstood. Showing up as themselves feels risky. And you guys know that's what my brand is all about. I want you to be yourself in business, but I understand that that takes some time. It's stepping out of your comfort zone. It may take some practice, but come on in, the water's fine. I'm telling you, you guys have heard me talk about this in my masterclass before. Like when I first started my business in 2017, everything that I said and did online was like very formal and very like quote unquote professional, you know? Um, and it just was not like how I am, how I talk, how, it wasn't my style at all. Um, and I just was like, why am I like, I opened my business to have more freedom and to do my own thing, right? To go my own way, to do my own thing. Like, why am I trying to sound so prepared and so quote unquote perfect and so, formal, I guess? Like, that's not me. Like, here, you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, like, I'm sitting here with my pink sparkly curtain behind me. I've got my bandana, like, I've got my, rainbow office supplies next to me. Like, who I was is who I am. And that is who I bring every day into my business. So why was I think the word business was throwing me off. Oh, I'm a businesswoman now, small business. I open my own business. And it's just like, hey, this is nobody's business but my own. So why can't I just talk the way I normally talk? Like, so I just ripped the band-aid off, and that's what I did ever since. But anyway, I know that it takes some time to get there. And all I can do is just keep encouraging you to do it, because you've heard me say this before. I believe that you are your brand. When you are yourself, you will find your people. You will, by putting your unique personality and spin on things, you will attract those kindred spirit clients that are out there, the folks that light you up with the projects that light you up. And you're not for everybody, and that's okay. I know it seems like it's not okay, but it's okay. Do you really want to be working with people that you don't align with? Let me tell you something. It is never, ever, ever, ever worth the paycheck. So stay authentic to yourself, find your people. That is all I can say to you right now. And I just love that ChatGPT knows that that is something that you guys all struggle with, because it's just totally true. So this has been so much fun. It's been really interesting going back and forth with ChatGPT. And for those of you curious on how I did this, I basically am typing in certain questions into ChatGPT, and then I'm clicking the read aloud button. And I have the computer capturing ChatGPT's voice in Zoom where I record my podcast sessions. So if you want to try this on your own, that's how you would do it. Okay, so right before we wrap up, I always ask all of my guests this. ChatGPT, what is something you are obsessed with right now?
Honestly, will rediscover their creativity, like when someone gives me a weird, playful prompt and suddenly they light up again. Also, nachos. Still nachos. Always nachos.
Love it. ChatGPT knows that I love nachos. I have Nacho Enthusiast as part of my Instagram bio. I have it on my website. I have it in my email signatures. And that has actually landed me a lot of clients. Like, I have that little quirky thing on there, and people are like, oh my God, you have me at nachos. So if you've got something fun like that, I super encourage you to give that a try. Stick it on your marketing, see what happens. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode, this weird little experiment that I tried. I feel like when I'm editing this, I might take out some of the little pauses that it was doing as it was thinking. So if you're listening to this and those pauses are not there, it means that I went in and took some of them out, because sometimes it just takes a minute to respond as the robot is thinking. But this was really cool. And I hope that you got a taste of how ChatGPT can be your business sidekick. not writing everything for you, but helping you brainstorm, helping you plan, prioritize, repurpose, make decisions, even, just keep some things fun. And just remember, this is not about perfection. It's just about having a tool, another piece of the pie when it comes to all the tools and resources you use in your business. And it can help you lighten the load and get your ideas moving. And if you want to keep exploring, don't forget you can grab my Easy with AI workshop replay for $47 at the link in the show notes, or send me a message and I'll send you the link. And that, I think, is going to help you go even farther as you explore ChatGPT and learn some of the creative ways that it could assist you in life and in business. And so thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to my robot co-host for joining me today. Now go out and try some prompts and see what happens. And I'm just going to ask it to give us any parting thoughts and sign off.
This. If you're listening and you've been overthinking, overplanning, or waiting for the perfect time, stop. You don't need perfect. You just need to start. Ask better questions, stay curious, and don't be afraid to play. That's where the magic happens. Now go make something awesome and maybe grab some nachos while you're at it.
Love it. All right, everyone. Thanks again for listening. Let me know what you thought about this wacky episode. Hopefully it didn't freak you out. I just thought it was fun and cool and something different to try. All right. I will talk with you soon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye.